The 20th century was often called the American century. The United States emerged from World War II as a global superpower. Its economy boomed. Its military became the strongest in the world. American culture spread across the globe. But empires rise and empires fall. The Roman Empire, once vast and mighty, eventually crumbled. Is the American empire destined for a similar fate? This question has become increasingly urgent in the 21st century. The U.S. faces serious challenges both at home and abroad. Economically, it is burdened by debt and inequality. Militarily, it is overextended and embroiled in costly conflicts. Politically, it is divided and polarized. This essay will explore the rise and fall of the American empire. It will examine the key historical events and economic strategies that propelled the U.S. to global dominance. It will also analyze the signs of decline and the challenges that threaten America's position in the world today. The seeds of American empire were sown in the first half of the 20th century. World War I devastated Europe, leaving the U.S. as a rising industrial power. The 1920s saw a period of economic prosperity in America, but the Great Depression brought hardship and uncertainty. World War II proved to be a turning point. The U.S. emerged from the war victorious and economically dominant. Europe, devastated by the conflict, looked to America for leadership and aid. The Soviet Union, while also victorious, emerged weakened and isolated. This marked the beginning of the Cold War, a period of geopolitical rivalry between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. The two superpowers competed for influence around the world, waging proxy wars and engaging in a costly arms race. In 1944, as World War II raged, representatives from 44 Allied nations met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Their goal to create a new international monetary system. The system they established would shape the global economy for decades to come. At the heart of the Bretton Woods system was the US dollar. The dollar was pegged to gold, and other currencies were pegged to the dollar. This made the dollar the world's reserve currency, the currency that central banks around the world held in their reserves. The Bretton Woods system gave the US enormous economic power. It could print dollars and export them to the rest of the world. It could also borrow money at low interest rates. This allowed the U.S. to finance its growing military and economic influence around the world. The Bretton Woods system crumbled in 1971 when President Nixon took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard, but the dollar remained the world's reserve currency, thanks in part to the rise of the petrodollar system. In the 1970s, the U.S. struck a deal with Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil producer. Saudi Arabia agreed to price its oil in dollars and to invest its surplus oil revenues in U.S. Treasury securities. In return, the U.S. promised to provide Saudi Arabia with military protection. This deal ensured that demand for dollars would remain high. Countries around the world needed dollars to buy oil, which was essential for their economies. This gave the U.S. tremendous leverage over the global economy. The petrodollar system was one pillar of American power. The other was the U.S. military. The U.S. military became the most powerful in the world after World War II. It maintained a global network of military bases and deployed troops to every corner of the globe. The U.S. military was used to project American power and to protect American interests around the world. It intervened in wars in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. It also supported coups and dictatorships that were seen as friendly to American interests. Section 5. Cracks in the facade. Economic upheavals and the rise of challengers. The 1970s marked a turning point for the American empire. The Vietnam War ended in defeat, shaking American confidence and draining its resources. The oil crises of 1973 and 1979 exposed the vulnerability of the U.S. economy to shocks in the global energy market. The U.S. also faced growing competition from other industrialized nations, such as Japan and West Germany. These countries had rebuilt their economies after World War II, and were now challenging American dominance in industries such as automobiles and electronics. At the same time, the U.S. economy was undergoing a period of structural change. Manufacturing jobs were being lost to automation and to lower-wage countries. The service sector was growing, but it did not pay as well as manufacturing. This led to growing income inequality and a decline in the standard of living for many Americans. Section 6. From Boom to Bust, Navigating the Late 20th and Early 21st Century. The late 20th and early 21st centuries were a time of economic boom and bust for the United States. The 1980s saw a period of economic growth under President Ronald Reagan. Reagan's policies of tax cuts and deregulation are credited with boosting the economy, but they also led to a widening gap between the rich and the poor. The 1990s were a time of unprecedented economic prosperity, fueled by the dot-com bubble. The internet and the tech sector boomed, creating vast wealth and new industries. But the bubble burst in 2000, leading to a recession. The U.S. economy recovered from the dot-com bust, but it was dealt another blow by the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. The attacks led to the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, which proved to be costly and unpopular. The U.S. economy then experienced a housing bubble in the early 2000s, fueled by loose lending practices and speculation. The bubble burst in 2008, leading to the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Section 7. A New World Order. Shifting sands of power in the 21st century. The 21st century has seen the emergence of a new world order. The US remains a powerful country, but it is no longer the sole superpower. Other countries, such as China, Russia, and India, are challenging American dominance. China has emerged as a major economic and military power. It is the world's second largest economy, and is rapidly expanding its military capabilities. China is also challenging American dominance in key technologies such as artificial intelligence and 5G wireless technology. Russia has reasserted itself on the world stage under President Vladimir Putin. Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine in 2014 and has intervened militarily in Syria to support the regime of Bashar al-Assad. Russia is also developing new weapon systems such as hypersonic missiles that are designed to challenge American military superiority. India is also emerging as a major power. It has a large and growing economy and is rapidly expanding its military capabilities. India is also a nuclear power and is a key player in the Indo-Pacific region. Section 8. Systemic fragility, the weight of debt and division. The U.S. faces serious challenges in the 21st century. Its economy is burdened by debt. The national debt has exceeded $34 trillion. The trade deficit is also high. This means that the U.S. is buying more goods and services from other countries than it is selling to them. The U.S. is also politically divided. The two major political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, are deeply polarized. This makes it difficult to address pressing issues such as climate change, income inequality, and healthcare. The U.S. also faces challenges from within. Social and political divisions have intensified, leading to political gridlock and a decline in trust in institutions. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed weaknesses in the American healthcare system and exacerbated existing inequalities. These challenges have led some to argue that the U.S. is in decline. They point to the country's growing debt, its political polarization, and its declining influence in the world as evidence that the American empire is coming to an end. Section 9. Conclusion. Twilight of an empire. The 21st century is a time of uncertainty and change for the United States. The American empire is facing challenges that it has never faced before. Whether the U.S. can adapt to these challenges and maintain its position in the world remains to be seen. Some believe that the U.S. is in decline and that its days as a global superpower are numbered. They point to the country's economic problems, its political divisions, and its military overstretch as evidence that the American empire is coming to an end. Others believe that the U.S. is simply going through a period of transition. They argue that the U.S. remains the most powerful country in the world, and that it has the resources and the resilience to overcome its challenges. Only time will tell what the future holds for the United States. However, one thing is certain: the world is changing, and the U.S. will need to adapt if it wants to maintain its position of leadership.